Big news came out. SEC moving to a 9-game conference schedule after all the back and forth with the Big Ten. Seemed like, SEC was kind of standing their ground. They were, our schedules were tough enough. We're not going to do that. And then all of a sudden, on I think it was Wednesday last week, they kind of tweaked the formula that was how they were going to pick teams for the college football playoff. And they said that they were going to use a new strength of schedule metric. And lo and behold, the very next day, the SEC says, "Oh, we're going to 9 games."
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that this happened because the big argument for it is that, oh, now they're taking in strength of schedule as a metric. I thought they were supposed to be doing that all along. And I mean, did I miss something here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was supposed to be part of it, but they were making a conscious decision to add it in, I guess, even more so. And I think that's what the SEC was always pushing for, right? So not only as part of this, not only are they going to have 9 conference games, but the requirement that said that you had to schedule at least one out of conference, either Power Four slash Notre Dame game, is staying in those requirements as well. So what does that mean? Starting next year, every team in the SEC is going to play essentially 10 power conference games.
Yeah, so obviously, we've been talking about this a lot earlier this year about how, the top 8 teams or top toughest schedules in the country are like SEC teams. And we saw last year that, you had Georgia, toughest schedule in the nation. I mean, there are several SEC teams in that top 10 toughest schedules last year. And so I don't really buy the argument that the SEC had to go to 9 games just to make their schedules stronger. I mean, tell me
I
how that works.
I mean, I think it's all about playoff seeds, right? The SEC was pushing for this idea in the expanded playoff of only 5 AQs, right? And 11 at larges. And if that's their desire, well, you want to make your teams look as best you can. So if your strength of schedule is higher and they're going to factor that heavily into the decision, then why not? Are they going to look at a Indiana team that goes 10-2 but plays 3 scrubs out of conference? Or are they going to look at a Florida team or that plays Florida State every year? And let's say Florida State's good and they go 9-3. Who's going to get in? No doubt that Florida team's going to get in, even though they had a tougher out of conference loss, because not only was the conference schedule better, but then they add that game on top. And every single team also remember that by doing this, when your teams are better and you're playing more conference games, it's going to make everybody in the conference's schedule seem stronger anyway. It's going to inflate it a little bit. So I think they're just looking towards the future, looking towards making their case of how this future playoff thing is going to shake out. I think they were at a stalemate with the Big Ten because the Big Ten kept saying you have to go to 9 conference games. Well, now the SEC has done that. And so maybe that greases the wheels to get them back to the drawing board and kind of figure this thing out. Otherwise, we're going to be on the 12 team playoff again next year because the deadline is, I think it's December 1st. So
Yeah, I tweeted out earlier this week when the news dropped because I saw Big Ten fans just making fun of the SEC. Oh, you cave, we're your big brother, blah, blah, all this stuff. So I tweeted out, I think this was probably done as a negotiating chip.
right.
It's like, okay, we'll go to 9 games, but I suspect that there's something big coming down the pipe in return.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I think an agreement's coming. Like I said, if this didn't happen, maybe it's that stalemate. But I think this leans in the idea that something's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen pretty quickly. I would think.
It seems to be happening a lot quicker than things have ever happened before.
Right.
It
Right.
seems like one week, oh, we're talking about there might be some rules and regulations. Next week, there's supposed to be some rules and regulations, but yet we're still going to ignore them.
Yeah. I mean, with the SEC and the Big Ten essentially in power of all of this, you have to get them on the same page. And if it's compromises or whatever it is, nothing's going to happen until they agree. So that's kind of where this is going. Um, just for the SEC itself, there are some caveats in here. So one of the complaints that's been about SEC scheduling is that like Georgia in 13 years has never gone and played at Texas A&M. As part of this, one of the things is that every school in the SEC will play every team in the SEC at least every 2 years and play home and away. So, play them once at home, once away, at least every 4 years. So no more of this. A&M's in the conference for 13 years and Georgia's never been to play them in College Station, and they've only been to Athens once. No
I
more of
was
that.
I was hoping that we were just going to keep that streak going.
Yeah,
To
yeah. Let's
just us.
let's never go to
Every
College
every
Station, Texas.
everybody plays every 2 years except for Georgia, Texas A&M.
Yeah. um, and then as part of how the scheduling is going to work, every team's going to have 3 permanent rivals. So immediately that was the big debate, right? Who's going
Hmm.
to be X's rival? Who's going to be this? If we look at Georgia, immediate people are like, oh, it's got to be Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee. I don't think it's going to be Florida and Auburn, Tennessee, because you are going to have to balance out the conference. You can't have Alabama's rivalries be LSU, Auburn, and Tennessee. And then some schools get Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss, or somebody else. Like you can't have that. You're going to have to balance it out between the schools that are seen as the traditional powers and those that are not. So if you're
Yeah.
asking me what Georgia's going to be, most likely they're going to look at historical schedules. Obviously, Georgia will play Florida. They will play Auburn. And I think it's probably going to be Kentucky or South Carolina.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I kind of hope it's Vandy.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
think,
mean, too, I say
well, in
that kind
terms
of
of
jokingly.
historically, Georgia has played, I think they've played Auburn the most, Florida the second most, and then it's Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
Well,
So
yeah.
just in terms of the times we played them,
Well,
that would make
you got
sense.
to keep the Auburn rivalry going. It's the South's oldest rivalry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they will do everything they can to save some of those serious rivalries. But like, yes, Georgia and Tennessee is a rivalry, but it's not as big a rivalry to Georgia or to Tennessee as Tennessee is to playing
true.
Alabama every year, or Auburn is to playing Alabama every year. So I think they're going to, look at that and they want to save historical stuff. And I think they'll do their best, but they're not going to be able to save everything.
I do like the rules that they're implementing. Um, does the Big Ten doesn't have that same requirement to play one out of conference game, do they?
No, not at all. You saw that with Indiana canceling, their future series with Virginia.
Yeah, yeah. That doesn't bode well for them because they could go undefeated against a cake schedule. And like, what happens if they do that and then you have like a 3-loss SEC team in there?
I think there's enough good teams in the Big Ten that it would at least give them some credibility in their schedule. So there's not going to be a year where they don't play anybody credible, but maybe a 2-loss team. 3 losses would be very much a stretch, but maybe a 2-loss team. If
Yeah,
let's say
that's true.
look ahead in 2030, Georgia right now on the schedule today has Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia Tech already scheduled out of conference. So if that holds, Georgia plays 12 games against power teams, and the 2 they're playing are perennial national championship contenders. So a Georgia 10-2 schedule against that, I mean, absolutely could be looked at against an 11-1 Indiana that played maybe Michigan or Ohio State, and that was pretty much it. Yeah, but
Yeah, you're right. 'Cause they will have to play at least one of those big teams from the Big Ten: Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Penn State. One of
right,
those.
right.
Yeah,
But
crazy times. So if you're with us live tonight, thank you. We appreciate you. If you're watching this later and you like this content, you like college football, give us a like, give us a subscribe, tell your friends. We love it.